All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to a very special video where I will be going over a piece of custom content that I have developed. I'm going to say that this is not even like a beta. I feel like this is like an alpha test of this particular scenario. My hope is that this can get some feedback and I can improve this. I will say that I looked at the Marvel Champions custom content Discord last night, and it was so inspiring that I was like, okay, I've been working on this in the background. I should just put it out. I can let other people see it in a way that I feel confident in having it looked at, because I am not stellar at how to do game modding like this. But now that I've been able to take my designs and put them into custom stuff here for everyone to look at, I feel confident in saying, let's just go through it and let's talk about what I did with a kind of niche fan favorite hero of mine, or fan favorite villain of mine, Count Nefaria. Right up there, he's an Avengers-level threat, he's an X-Men level threat, and I wanted to see him really kind of grow into something in this game, because I have a feeling that he's just not going to be represented. I did talk about him as something that I'd like to see represented in a past video a couple months ago, but long introduction, I'll say. So let's just get into this. So this is Count Nefaria. He is, we'll take them out of the way real quick. Oops. Scoot those out of the way so that we can take Count Nefaria in his different forms. Sorry, I didn't even think about the logistics of this. So we've got Count Nefaria in his three different stages, standard, expert, and he is a villain, which, as you can see right here very clearly, he has 2 scheme, 1 attack, 3 scheme, 1 attack, 3 scheme, 2 attack. That's because I wanted him to be more of a planning villain. And I took inspiration from the comics. There was a comic that I want to say was in the 70s. It was like Avengers, like 162, somewhere in there. I'll put it on the screen. It's a 3-issue arc, but essentially Count Nefaria pulls a Cell from Dragon Ball Z and just starts acquiring the powers of essentially his lackeys. And I wanted to try to capture that in some way, and I'd like to think that I did. So just going one piece at a time here, we will look at, see, I'm also not stellar with this. Okay, so we've got stage 1. What I plan to play against, what I've tested against, I've tested this scenario a couple times just to try to figure out what can I fine-tune. I've already fine-tuned a few things, but he has the when revealed ability, search the encounter deck and discard pile for Ego Made Manifest attachment, reveal it, and shuffle the encounter deck. So originally he was a villain that still wanted to kind of capture that Dragon Ball Z arc thing, but he cared about attachments in a way that I just realized became too complicated. Even trying to future-proof for it, it just got out of hand. And even when I looked outside of the recommended stuff, I was like, okay, this is too much. So he still goes and gets the original attachment that I'd wanted him to go get, which we'll look at in just a second. Actually, why don't we look at it now? So Ego Made Manifest is an attachment attached to him, and he can't take damage, and then it has a force interrupt that after Count Nefaria attacks, discard Ego Made Manifest. This is basically a way to one, there are ways around it, and I planned for that, and I figured out ways around it as I was testing it, but for the most part, this is a way to basically say, you're not attacking Count Nefaria on the first turn. And we'll get to reasons why that's not necessarily a negative, but that's just what it is. And I thought that, one, this image is just great, but also that creating a scenario where it's not disadvantaging you, but you're basically not going to be able to attack him on the first turn, felt like it was at least directing you in the way that you wanted to go. So we've established that. We've established that he is not going to be attacked on the first turn, at least in standard. If you're going to more in the expert way, he naturally grants this ability that I created, influenced by Arkham Horror, where now he's granting this Casualty 1 ability, which means that that minions, when they come into play, you place a threat onto them. which we will do stuff with over the course of the scenario. Additionally, when you're going to stage 2 or you've revealed stage 2, this time you're just looking for any attachment. I felt like that was still something that I wanted him to have, and it still is quasi important, but felt like a way to just sort of like give him a little bit of replayability. He is going to adapt. He's going to come. How you play against him is going to be different every time. And if you're starting in stage 1, the minions are going to, every minion that comes to play is naturally going to have this casualty 1 ability. Like I said, we'll talk about it in a second. One thing that I will say is that we do have 11 hit points per player, 13 hit points per player, and if I can get the other one, 15 hit points per player. I am aiming for something that is approximately the difficulty of a Crossbones or like a Taskmaster. These hit points per player may get moved around. They're the one thing that I'm really not that certain about, but I do feel like in playing them, I felt like I've hit a pretty good difficulty level. But the hit points are something that I know maybe need to get tweaked a little bit, and we'll get there. Moving on to stage 3, he gives minions casualty 2, so they come into play, they have 2 threat on them, and once again, he gets another attachment. That is a lot of use out of attachments. It also is a way to get you to go through the encounter deck really fast so that you can accumulate acceleration tokens, which I do feel like is kind of a hidden thing about Count Nefaria that I enjoy. And also, I love the fact that his Ego Made Manifest has the trait Illusion. I realize I'm saying I love this when it's something that I myself did, but just that was a extra kind of like trinket text that I put on there just to sort of add to this character. But let's get into the main scheme here real quick. So the main scheme, and we'll get to the other one in just a second, but 1A is worse than a jaywalker, question mark. And we're going to have the contents of Count Nefaria 1, 2, 3. We're going to have the Nefaria encounter set, along with, we will be looking at the Ionic, Durable, Jetstream, and then the standard encounter set. Oh, I realize that in all my testing, I have not included standard. That is a huge mistake. I've made that before. I don't know that changes much anything, but that does change how quickly you go through the deck. And additionally, we're using the running interference encounters, modular encounter set from, I believe that's from the Green Goblin scenario pack. But either way, it's the one that has Tombstone, and I just felt like added the kind of level of difficulty on top of it that I wanted. I also have it as the recommended, because if you want to go beyond that, cool, do what you need to, make it as hard as you want. And at setup, we're going to set the Ionic, Durable, and Jetstream encounter sets aside. We're going to search for the encounter deck for the Lethal Legion side scheme and reveal it, and then shuffle the encounter deck. And once we're on this side, we have notable villain Count Nefaria has been loitering around New York City advertising auditions for his new Lethal Legion, and there's a forced interrupt of when a minion leaves play, move all threat from that character to this scheme. So that's the first layer of how we are going to be using the threat that shows up on minions, especially in stage 2 and 3, to really amp up. That's what we're doing with the threat. That's the first layer of what we're doing. So when you take out a minion that has threat on it, the threat's going to go here. So once again, stealing that from Arkham, also stealing that a little bit from the Mojo encounter set, messing around with how we're going to be using threat. But I thought putting threat onto minions was an interesting thing in the fact that it just changes, like, okay, can I just have this minion sit out? I don't want it to just sit out. I'd like to, but can I just kind of like exist with it existing? And this was originally 5 threat per player. I moved up to 6 yesterday. I could even go a little bit higher. I think keeping it low makes it a little bit more difficult, pushes us to the second main scheme really quickly, but I guess I haven't decided yet. And as we just learned, I'm not playing it correctly because I didn't even put standard in. That's my own failing. But let's talk about what happens after that. So when we complete the first scheme, we go to the second one. Despite logical reasoning, Count Nefaria has engulfed the city in terror. The heroes must answer the call and stop Count Nefaria. When revealed, place 1 acceleration token on the main scheme, advance to 2B. Right off the bat, because I do, and this could change, but right now, because we can get through whatever stage of Count Nefaria we're worried about pretty quickly, I wanted to kind of raise the stakes and just say, hey, there's going to be an acceleration token immediately. I don't know if that's a little too heavy-handed, but we'll see. Then we have Avengers-level Threat, 2B. It has 9. It's going to be completed by 9 threat per player. And Count Nefaria is drawing power from his Lethal Legion. His powers combined are too much to be left unchecked. Now, all minions have guard and the force interrupt of when a minion leaves play, Count Nefaria heals damage equal to the amount of threat on them. So now we're taking that and we're twisting it. We're not accruing threat onto the main scheme. Now we're giving Count Nefaria back some health. And once again, that recontextualizes how much do I want this minion to stay in play, because now I'm only making getting to Count Nefaria even harder. And I'm an attack on top of that. All the minions have guard, so you need to take them out, meaning that you're going to give Count Nefaria back some health. And once again, it's possible that as a viewer, you're looking at this right now going, that seems really hard. Or maybe that seems too easy. I don't know. But to me, that fit into the level of difficulty that I was looking for. Was trying to hit, like I said, Crossbones Taskmaster. Like this has all been relatively balanced to what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to do even more. I'm looking to improve this. That's why this video exists. So that's what we're up against. We're up against Count Nefaria, and we are playing around with what threat does. So let's talk briefly about where all this comes from, where that kind of thematic cell stuff comes from. So these are our 3 key elite minions. They are all Lethal Legion. They're all elite. We've got Whirlwind, Grey Gargoyle, and Living Laser. And these are all Lethal Legion characters. Grey Gargoyle was not the character from the comics that was affected by Count Nefaria in the way that we're talking about, but the guy that he did, I just didn't feel like it was Power Man, and I didn't feel like I wanted to use him as a minion. But we've got Whirlwind, who has Casualty 2, so he's naturally starting with 2 threat on him. He has Retaliate 1 and 6 health, and also 1 Scheme 2 attack. These are other stats that I think I might mess around with in terms of just kind of trying to raise their threat level, like how badly do we want to keep them in play. I did feel like giving Retaliate 1 to a 6 health minion meant that the lower attack was probably possible, and when defeated, attach the set-aside Jetstream attachment to Count Nefaria, shuffle any remaining set-aside Jetstream encounter cards into the deck. And the same thing is going to be with these 2. When they die, we're going to get corresponding encounter sets and add them to the deck. Grey Gargoyle's got Toughness and Casualty 1, and Living Laser has Patrol and Casualty 1. So you might not want to attack into Whirlwind unless you're going to take him out because he has Retaliate. Grey Gargoyle is going to take 2 attacks probably to get through, and Living Laser has Patrol, so you can't be touching the main scheme while he's in play. So they're all giving you different reasons. He has 3 attack. They're all giving you different reasons how to assess them and really decide, is this a character that I can keep in play? And so in finding them, we need to go talk about the Lethal Legion encounter set, or a Lethal Legion side scheme. So this is something that you grab immediately when you set up the game. You go get Lethal Legion side scheme with 2 threat per player, and it has, is it the hazard icon? I always get these wrong. I can never remember what these are called. It just hasn't been hammered into my head yet. But Count Nefaria is targeting individuals who are easy to exploit with a low moral code, and when revealed, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a Lethal Legion minion is discarded. Put that minion into play, engage with the first player. I will freely admit, and maybe this is something that I can streamline, there is a lot of setup to get this scenario going. You are going to find Lethal Legion, you're finding a Lethal Legion member, you are going and finding Ego Made Manifest in Standard, or you're just getting an attachment. And so it's also entirely possible that the encounter deck is going to be very slim by the time you make it. But this has been an interesting side scheme because it's the kind that I've just kind of left out, and it hasn't in the 5 or 6 games I've played, it's still been in play at the end of the game half the time. It's yes, it's giving me an extra encounter card, but it's kind of just been something that I can't afford to give attention to. But then it also gives me something to put attention to because I can't attack Count Nefaria on the first turn, so at least I can get rid of this. Additionally, I can't attack Count Nefaria on the first turn, but I can attack whatever Lethal Legion member I found, which has really been what I feel like is the design success of at least pushing the players into the direction that I want them to go. it's possible that it's no fun. It's possible it's maybe too heavy-handed. But for so far, as I've been playing through it, I've gone, okay, yeah, this is the gameplay that I'm looking to have. But then let's talk about some of the other things. And actually, we're going to get into the encounter sets that these call in a second. I want to focus on just going through all of Count Nefaria's cards, and then we can loop back to those. So in terms of other minions, we've got Maggia Heavy, who is a 1 scheme star attack with 2 health, and a force interrupt of when he would attack, he schemes instead. This was just me trying to explore something different to do with a small minion. And this could be changed. I kind of like the simple design so far, to just kind of like not have it be something super complicated to understand, but it's more just like, hey, when it's in play, I need to assess, can I take that extra scheming, or do I want to just get rid of it right now? And you know, that's been so-so. I think it's been in play like once or twice, so it hasn't made a huge impact. And then we got Masque, who is the daughter of Count Nefaria. She has 1 scheme, 2 attack, 5 health. She's a master of evil and criminal trait with casualty 3, because attacking Count Nefaria's daughter is a big no-go. And so I wanted to kind of thematically capture that by making her a minion that isn't necessarily always going to enter play, but if it does, you really have to assess, like, am I just about to add 3 threat to the main scheme, or am I just about to heal Count Nefaria for 3? And she has the extra ability of Madame Masque cannot take damage from basic attacks. That doesn't actually seem like that big of a hurdle to jump over. Like, often people, if you're going to take out a minion for 5, you're going to be using an event anyway. But I wanted to make it so that allies don't really help to get rid of Madame Masque, and you need to do more than just make a basic attack to take her out. So if you have a big enough event, you can just take her out. If you don't, you might have to spread it over 2 events. Then we move over to the 2 other side schemes outside of Lethal Legion. We've got Unstable Explosion. This is a card that I very much wonder how much I need to retool this, but it is a side scheme that comes in with 3 threat, and when revealed, deal 3 indirect damage to each player in hero form. And it has the acceleration icon on it. Like I said, I am really looking into if this should be the players distribute 3 indirect damage, or if it should be the players distribute X indirect damage, or X is the amount of players. I'm not sure. I'm only saying that because I feel like this is the only card in the pack where I feel like this almost feels a little unfair. Randomly, a side scheme comes out and it can just defeat you if you have 3 or less health, and and you don't have a plan. Although if you don't have a plan, then maybe the game wasn't going too great anyway. And then we've got Cunning Distraction, another side scheme that gives minions guard. It's just another way to get that before you get to the stage where Count Nefaria is giving guard. Minions have guard, so you have to deal with this. You can't thwart the main scheme while this is out, but it also only has 1 threat. And when it's defeated, you shuffle back into the deck. I will admit, side scheme design has been maybe the hardest part for me. I don't know, honestly, if these are the difficulty of these 2 side schemes is beyond what I intended, because they might be a little too heavy-handed. But that's just where we're at. Let's see. So we covered those. We'll go down to these. So got You'll Regret That, a treachery. When revealed, if you're in alter ego form, this card gains surge, kind of a standard card. And when Count Nefaria, if you're in hero form, when he attacks, but if he has a condition attached, this attack gains overkill. And I don't remember if the one's illusion. Okay, so this kind of little kicker might not even come into play. Although if you're far enough into the game, and he does only have max, he only has max 2 attack. So really, Count Nefaria is not attacking for that much, so I don't feel like giving something overkill is really doing that much, but I wanted to kind of just add that extra layer to it. So that's just one of those. And then we have 2 copies of Vampiric Urge, which I stole from the Magneto encounter. So when revealed, defeat a Lethal Legion minion in play. If no minion was defeated this way, this card gains surge, and then it has the boost ability of revealed this card. So this is just a way to kind of force your hand. A Lethal Legion member is going to be defeated, and it basically shows how Count Nefaria is completely okay with turning on his lackeys. He's going to get them into play. He just wants them there so that they can be defeated, so that he can accrue power, which, like I said, we'll get into in just a second. But I saw this in the Magneto encounter and went, this is the kind of card that I think I need 2 copies of. And just to kind of make sure it's going to happen, that boost ability, it's going to happen. And I will say the only thing is in testing that's a little rough is when you suddenly get dealt an encounter card, or no, you suddenly surge in the middle of an attack. That is the one part of the design that was not intended and has come up more than once, where there are no Lethal Legion minions in play, and suddenly Count Nefaria is attacking you, or he's scheming, and all of a sudden you're just surging into something else. That might be my own misunderstanding of the rules, but that's where we're at. And then we've got 2 copies of Concussive Blast, which is a reprint. I know you use it during Ultron. I don't know if it's actually an Ultron card or if it's part of the Under Attack modulars that you use with it. But either way, I thought that this was a fine card that I wanted just to reuse. It was the kind of card that inspired me to be like, this is what I'd like. This is some card that I think would fit nicely into here. Just do a small amount of damage. Maybe it breaks some toughs. Maybe it takes out a minion that you thought you were going to use to block. And then just the boost ability, just complete reprint. This is exactly how it appears in the Ultron scenario. And then lastly, we've got 2 more attachments to kind of help to fill out that need for attachments that you see with each level of Count Nefaria. Strategic Mind, and actually I'll even say, well, we'll get into it, but Strategic Mind is a condition. You attach it to Count Nefaria, and it has an acceleration icon on it, and the hero action of deal yourself a face down encounter card, discard this card. And then we've got Nefaria's Eye Beams, attach to Count Nefaria, hero action, deal yourself a face down encounter card, discard this card, but it gives him +2 attack. After playing with these, I don't feel like giving yourself a face down encounter card is too much of a price, but I feel like I want to find a different cost, and I just don't know what that is yet. I do like the idea that you're basically saying, I will rather have an encounter card over the boost in threat. I also like the fact that you're saying I'd rather have an encounter card than the extra 2 damage. But like I said, I haven't nailed down if this is precisely what I want these cards to be, if this is precisely how I want these cards to be gotten rid of. Where they currently are, I'm fine with, and they are on my list of things to like maybe upgrade. So that is the cards that are a part of the Nefaria set. And then obviously we're going to have standard, we're going to have the encounter set, the whatever is, we recommend, or what if you want to do. Let's talk about where these 3 lead us. So let me just pause it and I'll get that set up. All right, so if we take out Grey Gargoyle, we are going to get the durable condition, or we're going to get the durable attachment plus, I should have spread these out. So the durable attachment you attach to, this is modular, so it can be put into other stuff if you happen to find this at all enticing. But it is an attachment you attach to the villain. When revealed, you give the villain a tough status card, and then it has the forced response of, after a hero makes a basic recovery, the villain heals 1 damage, limit twice per phase. Don't know if that's going to come up, but that's sort of a balancing the original version of Count Nefaria, because I think there was more to it, but one of the hooks was that he doubled up forced interrupts and forced responses, and that became untenable at some point. And I was like, yeah, this is a bad design. We're not going to do that. But basically, this is a way for him to just get the tough status, and he recovers when you recover. And then, I don't know why I did that. Okay, but we've got 2 copies of Glancing Blow, a treachery with when revealed, give the villain a tough status card. If you cannot, you are confused, and the boost ability of give the villain a tough status card. So this is just kind of a thematic thing. Originally it was going to be if you cannot, you are stunned, but then that felt really unfair. It's like, okay, so not only does he have a tough status, but now you were metaphorically stunned that he somehow managed to survive the blow, but in the gameplay you have basically 2 attacks that are completely blanked, and I didn't like that. So I turned it into confused. Might be heavy-handed. This might be way too powerful. I don't know. But the games that it's been played, it normally just gives them a tough status counter, and we're cool with that. maybe the most unfair card that I've ever created is Single Combat. When revealed, ready your identity, exhaust each ally you control. Until the end of your turn, you cannot play attack events and the boost ability of an exhausted ally you control. So the entire idea of this was just to create a card that said, Count Nefaria is super durable, he's ready to take on solo combat, and this is how he's going to do it. Basically, it's forcing you for one turn. It's just you and Nefaria, bare knuckle boxing. I think the thematics are there. I do wonder if this is very difficult card to manage. I just don't know. I feel like it's very fair, but I feel like I might have not properly taken in the power level here. I just realized that I failed to put my own name, I guess, in this part of the file. I did that in the other one, right? Yeah, I did. Okay. So it's just this. Oh, wow. So I'm really inconsistent here. I got it there, but I don't have it there. Either way. But yeah, so when we defeat Grey Gargoyle, this is the encounter set that's going to come into play. And this just stays. It doesn't go away. Once he's acquired that power, he has that power. These get shuffled into the encounter deck. Then when we defeat Living Laser, he gets the Ionic trait, or he gets the Ionic attachment, which gives him a star for his attack and the force response of when the villain attacks you, discard the top card of your deck, take indirect damage equal to the number of printed energy resources on it. And I should have said this before, the Wingdings, they're just there for future proofing. It's possible that they do nothing for you, but I just was like, let me put them on there. They might not even matter in the long run. But Ionic cares about, well, energy resources. And so that's what we're going to see over the course of this particular modular encounter set, where we will be looking at 2 copies. Oh, actually, okay, yeah. So we've got 3 different cards here. We've got Static Shutdown, an obligation, the only obligation that I think I put into here, with you cannot play events or use basic powers because you've gone Ionic, and the alter ego action of shuffle cards with at least 2 printed energy resources from your hand into your deck. Set this card aside. So I just thought that this was some interesting design space in terms of like you've been infected by the Ionic nature of Nefaria, and so that stops you from playing events or using basic powers. What does that look like? And then I wanted to it's like an obligation, so I wanted it to have a way for you to get rid of it, and I didn't want it to get shuffled back into the deck. The only way to get this card back would be to re-defeat Living Laser. And I'll even say that at one point these were going to be the other sides of the minions, but then I realized that would have meant making a Lethal Legion deck, which was not something that I wanted to do because these would not have a regular back. And so yeah, I'll even say that in terms of like getting this into play, the Lethal Legion minions are a little wordy. But then we've got Finishing Blow, a treachery with when revealed an alter ego, discard an ally or support you control. If you cannot, this card gains Surge. And when revealed in hero form, the villain attacks you. I just sort of wanted to create a card that showed off just what it's like when the villain goes all out at you, and that is displayed in it. Nice big attack from I think that's Genesis from Uncanny X-Men, Uncanny X-Force. And then we've got 2 copies of Ionic Infection and an attachment attached to your identity. Treat each of your identities' printed basic powers as 1, and the alter ego action of spend 3 energy resources, discard this card. So these are kind of a pseudo obligation. I do like keeping an alter ego. I could be swayed. See, and I don't know why I've messed this up. Okay, but I could be swayed that this needs to be just an action. It doesn't need to be hero, it doesn't need to be alter ego. But overall, just wanted to explore the design space of what if we made you've been infected with with Ionic and all your basic powers, like you can't really focus to do anything other than just make basic attack. At one point, these like just gave you -1, and then I realized that could be taking a hero and turning them into all zeros or something. I mean, I guess at that point, your stats are not that important to you. But then this also means you can only heal for 1. So yeah, this is another card that could be very powerful, and I just don't see it. But I at least in terms of design, think it's a clever-ish design. And lastly, we've got Jetstream. Once again, you're attaching it to the villain. This is what happens when you defeat Whirlwind. And the forced interrupt of when the villain schemes, move one threat from the main scheme to the side scheme with the least amount of threat. Well, this is one of the reasons why the Lethal Legion side scheme stayed in play, because Jetstream was the first thing I got, and I kept periodically adding threat to it inadvertently. And this is a design I could decide to change. I do feel like it's the one that was the hardest for me to kind of figure out. But I knew that I wanted it to be Whirlwind themed, and I didn't want it to just be another damage outlet. This is kind of where we're at. This encounter set cares about side schemes, or cares about threat in some way, and that's what we're about to see. So that's mostly seen in Stir Up Trouble. It is a treachery, and this is, I think I got this idea from a magic card, but it's a treachery. When revealed, distribute the threat among all schemes equally. Any remaining threat is placed on the main scheme. So this is just a very bizarre card that comes in, and it just takes all the threat pool, like you got 15 threat, you just pool it all together, and it suddenly just redistributes it. And I suppose there is a world where this could auto complete the scheme, but I think the chances of that are very slim. And you're not going to see a main scheme get completed by this unless you just have completely lost track of what's going on with the other side schemes, and they're just sitting with a whole bunch of threat, but they shouldn't. So this is just a unique way to kind of suddenly make side schemes more threatening than they were prior. Then we've got 2 copies of Violent Whirlwind, a peril card, a peril treachery, with one revealed, choose to either exhaust a friendly character or place 2 threat on the main scheme. Yeah, this just seems like a fairly routine card that we've seen in other forms, but yeah, just pretty basic. And then we've got the last card, a side scheme called Erupting Chaos. The city has been engulfed in a whirlwind of danger. The time for heroes is now. This art is from Ultimate Spider-Man. And when revealed, each player discards the top 3 cards of their deck and places 1 threat here for each different type of resource icon they discarded this way, and then it needs to be addressed immediately. You can't go after the main scheme. And yeah, this I may want to fix. Maybe it's the first player does the top 3, because this kind of got out of hand at one point when I was playing a 2-player test against this, and it suddenly had like 8 scheme on it, or had 8 threat on it, and that was maybe a little bit more than I intended for a card that you have to deal with. But overall, that is everything. That is the Count Nefaria set. Where is he? Where's my beautiful boy? Of course, he's at the bottom. Look at those cards fly. All right, so that is Count Nefaria. I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to make something for this character because I think that he's really cool, and I really loved the theming of how he got all of his powers, because he is supposed to be a very threatening character, and this is not final. I plan to fix this up some more, smooth out some edges, but overall, I'd love to just get some feedback. What do you think? Would you want to play against this? And yeah, until next time, thanks.